Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm J.R. Stays, and this is your Daily Detroit for Thursday, September 26th, 2024. And today, we're talking about Palmer Park. There has been a ton of work happening up there. Now, if you haven't been since 2020, it's like a new place. Every time I go up there, there are changes. It's being a huge benefit to the community, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's nature. So I wanted to dive into all of that. After all, it's one of the largest parks in Detroit, and there's 281 acres between 6 Mile and 7 Mile, a little like right on Woodward right there. In fact, it's right near the location of the first concrete road in America. So it's a historic spot. It's a really cool backstory. You know, it was willed by a former senator, was their private property. It cannot be developed on. It's for the community good, and I love to see the investments up there. So we're going to talk with two people. First,
Stacy Varner, president of People for Palmer Park.
About what's happening now in the long-term plan. And then second,
Bobby Westerby. I am the CEO and president of Environmental Consulting and Technology.
About some volunteer efforts, some design efforts, and some of the things that they're doing. So let's go visit a corner of Detroit and get a pretty good update about it. So we are sitting in Palmer Park. We're by a pond that is getting restored. You can maybe hear the ducks and the geese in the background. You know, there's all kinds of great noises here. You've got just so many new installations in the last few years. Like, I'm a city resident and my mind's spinning about how much great work's been done around this. So when it comes to you and People for Palmer Park, what have been the last few years like?
Well, it's actually started long before the last few years. When we organized and became incorporated as a nonprofit steward of Palmer Park in 2011, we developed a master plan for this park. And finally, some of the things that we have had on this master plan since then you're getting to see the results. Doesn't mean it hasn't been worked on, but you're starting to see it. This Lake Francis that you're referring to, which was put in by Senator Palmer for his wife when he built the log cabin, was a man-made lake. No circulation, nothing. And over the years, it just became toxic. So 4 years ago, a member of ECT, the City of Detroit, People for Palmer Park, Natural Wildlife Association, and others got together. They designed this lake to naturalize the shorelines. We dredged it just last year. And last year when we dredged it, it was just awful. But again, the whole point is to clean up this park. Since the spring, we've planted 15,000 plants around the water's edge. We've resprayed the islands and put in a filtration system so that the water will continue to move and we won't have that stagnant water anymore. And it took literally a month to refill this water every day, all day. So it's now you're starting to see the beauty of the lake. You can see the bottom of the lake. I don't know how to say this because people love wildlife and we love wildlife, but we've been trying to get rid of the geese. And they're not having it. And if you could see what I'm looking at right now, there's a whole gaggle of geese that are just like, we're not leaving. We've come today, we're playing today, but that's what it is. And so the Lake Francis project is just one of the pieces that is now starting to see the beauty. Another area is the woodlands. We have almost 100 acres. It's roughly somewhere between 80 and 100 acres of woodlands. This is considered, it's called Woodward Woods. It is considered a remnant park. And what does that mean? It means that it has not been touched, it has not been developed. And that was part of the agreement with Senator Palmer when he donated the land to the city, that we could not develop those woodlands. And a couple years ago, we were recognized by the Old Growth Network and have been inducted as the 99th park woodlands in the United States. And when you walk through the trails, walk through the woodlands, you almost don't realize you're in the middle of a city. Yeah. It's just that dense. It's just that amazing. You think you're somewhere else. And so the other part that you're starting to see is we're cleaning up the trails. We're putting in kiosks so you know where you're going and can walk around or bike through or whatnot.
One of the things that strikes me is a lot more intentionality with this space. You know, you were talking about the geese. There's actually a reason that you guys don't. It's not about the noise or whatever. it's about balancing the ecosystem so that that pond can be a lot cleaner and better long term. I'm looking at these paths. I'm looking at beautiful new playgrounds and a workout space and this pavilion. Like, this is stunning, this change. How rewarding is it for you to be a part of all this?
It's absolutely fabulous. So I grew up in the city of Detroit. I came to Palmer Park as a child. I actually had one of the ducks on this lake bite me as I was trying to feed it. And then left as I got older, came back, actually moved into the apartments at Palmer Park. I have seen the transformation, and you are correct. There are some intentional areas through the park to make sure that people take ownership of this park. They can come out and it's clean. They can bring their families because it's safe. It doesn't matter what kind of activity, suits you. We've got tennis, we've got disc golf, because we've got 2 disc golf courses now. We've got the playgrounds you see, we've got volleyball. And if you're not into a recreation, that's okay too, because we've got the meadows up at the north end by 7 Mile Woodward with the partnership of the Detroit Bird Alliance. We've got beautiful meadows for you to walk through. So it is intentional. And with our mission for people from Palmer Park, one of the things that Senator Palmer and his wife were very, very big advocates is making a space that is pleasant to be in, but for the good of all. Letting anybody, it doesn't matter, the equity of all of us sharing the same space. The other piece that we're being intentional about, and we're still in the process of doing, is helping the community understand what does a sustainable park look like, and working to create signage, helping to educate. Again, you mentioned, why do we not want the geese? Well, the geese create waste that makes the environment unhealthy. And while some are fine, many are not. Again, we have a large deer population in our woods. Some are fine. But unfortunately, the deer that are here in Detroit or in Palmer Park, there's not a predator to balance the growth. With that, again, helping the community understand, we're starting to have more meadows, less mowing, more tree plantings, less green space. We're not getting rid of all the green space because everyone wants to come and picnic and have fun, and that's a great part of a park. But helping to encourage people to understand, as this world begins to change, we need to stop emitting too much into the air, letting nature clean itself too. Part of the invasive species removal that's going on today helps to clear out the floor of our woodlands so that sunlight can get to it, so that that soil becomes healthy again. Because if you have invasive species or species that are junk.
Well, and we're wrestling with things like climate change, which is very real. I did notice that there is much more of a focus on, say, native plants and things that are, kind of supposed to be here or suited for here, versus things in the past, people would just plant stuff because it was pretty, not really thinking about how it fit into the ecosystem.
That's true. And our partners, Greening Detroit, are out here today. We're planting 30 natural or native trees to Michigan. And that again goes to your point of climate change. Which ones are native to this area and what's not, we need to begin to weed out, making sure we don't replant. One of the things that was said earlier from Faye from Greening Detroit was, we have beautiful willow trees, but those aren't sustainable, good trees to necessarily they're beautiful.
Yeah.
So we're planting, of the 30 trees, there are about 6 species that are native to Michigan. And again, that goes to climate change.
So in the next few years, what are you looking forward to? Because I think I really encourage listeners to come out here and see some of the changes that have happened. Because this is it was always a place of value and beauty, but this has really turned it up a notch. What are you excited about for the future? What are some of the things down the road?
The less sexy stuff is
Bring it. Let's get nerdy.
The less sexy stuff is to continue to make our woodland healthy, which is removal of invasive species, which is cleaning up some of the remnants and stuff that have been in our woods. We've got almost 100 acres of woodlands to clean up, and that's an ongoing, it never stops process. So that's going to always be on our list of what we're doing moving forward. The other thing that we're moving forward with is inviting the community to come and learn more about the environment, sustainability, how to enjoy life more holistically. You know, parks in general, you think of getting out and getting exercise, but the mental health piece of this, one of the good things about COVID, if that could be said, I'm a retired physician, is that it helped us to slow down. It helped us to reevaluate, I think, what's important in life. Reevaluate even the stress that comes with just everyday work, that our mental health is exceptionally important. You know, again, parks aren't, you don't normally say, oh, I'm going out to the park for my mental health. You know, usually you pack a bike, you know, you get active and do some stuff. We have free Wi-Fi at Palmer Park. We now see people from the neighboring schools with laptops sitting at the lake. I wish they would get rid of the laptops, but they're sitting with their laptops doing work. We now see more families coming out to the park just to, you know, slow down, pause. I don't think a lot of us recognize just how important it is to kind of balance ourselves. And when you come out to this park, this almost 300-acre park that sits between 6 Mile, 7 Mile to the north and south, Woodward to Pontchartrain, when you come out here, you get a little bit of everything. You can walk through the woods, take a pause. You can play if you want to play. You can sit by the lake. We have people that come out, bring a hammock, and just chill. And I do think that in general, if we could, when we're thinking about moving forward, how do we help people improve their lifestyle by getting more closer to nature?
I think about that in the context of health. You mentioned you're a former physician. There are so many things that I have found in my own health journey that are helped by just getting outside, getting sun, taking a walk instead of driving, biking instead of driving, being more part of your community and being centered and aware, or even taking 10 minutes and being able to lower your blood pressure by not staring at that screen the whole time. And I know that there's a lot of people who really value hustle culture, but there also needs to be a place for rest. Otherwise, we can't have our best ideas.
You're absolutely correct. And that's, again, that trying to figure out that balance. We had a meeting just this past week with some of the neighboring communities over at our urban educational vegetable garden. And one of the beautiful things about it, the point of the meeting was to figure out how we as people from Palmer Park can help some of the neighborhoods with their green spaces in their own residential communities and associations. And one of the fun things that came out of it, our urban garden manager was sharing some of the medicinal plants that could help lower that blood pressure, that can help improve your immune system, that can help give you that extra energy. She was sharing some plantings that you could wrap around your arm if you've got inflammation and swelling. And again, we know that the origins of a lot of the medicines that we take and get from the grocery stores have a base in natural plants, helping people to understand what we put in our mouth. We can improve our overall lifestyles, getting out in nature, breathing this air, going through the woods. How much oxygen am I getting just going through the woodland, right? How fun is that? But so, again, going back to your earlier question of what are we looking forward to the future, is basically educating our communities about the beauty and the richness and helping them to live a better life because they're focusing on their overall health, I think. We are going to be adding educational signage, so when you start walking through our trails, you'll know what to look for. We'll be adding improvement signage so that you understand that as we naturalize this park, the weeds aren't really weeds. Give it a couple years and it's a beautiful meadow. We're actually putting in kiosks so that you will venture into the woods and not be afraid to say, where am I coming out? I know for many years I didn't go in the trails because I didn't know where I'm going to end. And that was not a real fun thing to be. I like to know point A to point B. But anyway, we're also another exciting thing. Where are we going in the future? The Michigan State Fair band shell is coming to Palmer Park. In fact, it's being constructed right now up on 7 Mile just west of the 12th precinct. So we were looking to have Afternoons at the park, free concerts. How fun is that? People from Palmer Park, we get monies from different foundations, and this summer we've been doing a concert series at our historic log cabin 4 times during the month on Sundays afternoons, and they've just been glorious to sit outside, whether you're sitting on a blanket in a chair with some snacks. We even have food trucks and things like that, and listening to local musicians that are amazing. That again, balancing our lives, slowing down a little bit, putting the technology away just for a moment. But if you're one of those people that just have to have it, we do have free Wi-Fi. So I will go back to that. We do have free Wi-Fi.
Okay, if people want to know more, they want to get involved, they want to support, where can they go?
peopleforpalmerpark.org. You can go to our website. We also have a farmers market on every Wednesday from June until October 2nd. From 4:30 to 7:30. We always have information at that table. It's located at 7 Mile Woodward. But the website, peopleforpowerpark.org, is the best way. We have a spot for you to donate. We love that. We also love sweat equity, just like this company that's out here today. Over 200 people that are out here rolling up their sleeves to help us work.
Yeah, ECT, yeah.
ECT. They're amazing, amazing group of people that are joyously digging in the dirt, joyously cutting down trees and stuff. They're getting their fingers, dirty and all that. They're doing the work in which they are making a living from and giving back, which is a wonderful thing.
What is ECT? I know that you've been around for a while, but, kind of fill in the gaps for those who might not know.
We're a 35-year environmental consulting company. We comprise of biologists and ecologists, engineers, landscape architects, archaeologists, and we do work anything and everything environmental. So in Michigan, we do a lot of wetland restoration and habitat restoration, and we do work all the way out to New Mexico doing renewable energy projects.
That's really interesting. So there is an alignment with working with parks and things. Have you worked with parks before?
Yes, parks are one of our best clients. We love to come and restore habitat, make sure that the parks are doing what they're supposed to be doing for the community. In Detroit in particular, we work with quite a few of the parks in the past.
So why Palmer Park? This is a place that has actually gone through a lot of change in the last few years.
We became involved with Palmer Park quite a while ago when they started to do the master plan. And then just recently some more when they were restoring Lake Francis with some of the designs. So ECT handled or was involved in some of the restoration design that occurred on the lake.
Okay. And what are some of the things that you're working on today?
Today we're here as a voluntary event. Today we're tree planting, I think 30 trees. We are cleaning up the park, beautification. We are doing invasive species control on Witherell Woods, which is an old growth forest, super cool, doesn't really happen in urban environments. So for Palmer, that's a big deal. And we're also doing what's called a bio-blitz. And so what we're doing is cataloging any species we see so that they have a record of what was here on this date, for the future.
Interesting. So what has changed in the last, 30 some years when it comes to environmental consulting? Because I feel like even the energy towards the environment in the wider public has changed.
Of course. If you go back far enough, if you're old enough, you remember that the Rouge River caught fire. Mm-hmm. And during that time, a lot of regulation was put in place so that they could come and clean up. They knew we needed clean air. They know we need clean water. At this point, those regulations make companies, cities, the federal government, everybody care about the environment. When you go out to do any kind of development, there's an environmental component. You got to make sure that you're doing it in a way that minimizes the impact to the environment. And so that's what we help people do. We also help restore it. Talk about the Rouge River. There's been a tremendous amount of restoration along that river. We're involved in that too. And that's just to make sure that the people around the Rouge have clean water and a place for them to enjoy nature.
What are some of the places in Metro Detroit or Michigan that you can point to if a listener is interested in this and go, yeah, ECT was part of that?
Oh, geez. Well, I would say 20 to 30% of any work that was done on the Rouge River, ECT's had a hand on it. We've done some work in the Detroit River with some of the fish habitat that you see, the installations there. We've worked on some of the renewable energy projects you would see in Michigan. So the wind farms up in the Thumb, Isabella Wind, which is the 400 megawatt wind farm that sits up by Mount Pleasant, biggest wind farm in Michigan. We helped with the environmental components of that. For 30 years we've been working in the state of Michigan doing a tremendous amount of work. It's pretty impactful.
And so when you're brought into a project, what is the goal outcome? Like when you're hired in, like what is the thing that you're bringing to the table? And I'm asking these very basic questions because I'm like, well, maybe someone's listening that doesn't even know what an environmental consultant is, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, we want to bring our expertise. We're biologists, so we want to make sure that we bring the knowledge of species restoration, habitat restoration, mitigation, stream bank stabilization, engineering, any of our expertise that anybody would need, client need, doing a project, we want to bring that to the table. We want to be known as experts on subjects that matter. And for us, restoration and healthy environment is what matters.
And before we wrap up here, about how many people are out here and what kind of like scale of event is this?
This is a huge event. We have 200 people. That's almost the entire size of our company. We're about a 250 person company, and they're coming from 29 different states. So 200 people from 29 different states mobilizing for a volunteer event like this has been huge.
All right, that is it for your Daily Detroit. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Cheyenne Nocerini for editing this episode. Much appreciated. This field work, it's a little bit to juggle, so I really appreciate her. Thank you so much to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. It allows us to do this kind of local on-the-ground coverage. We want to do way more of it. Our studio's in the city, but we want to be out there in the neighborhoods and the suburbs and all the different places of Metro Detroit bringing out these stories. Now, if you haven't already, I got a favor to ask for you. Well, a couple. One, drop 5 stars on your favorite podcast app, either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Number 2, tell a friend about the show. So here's the thing. Social media is great and all, but really it's not the best for sharing about podcasts. Email a friend. Text somebody. Word of mouth is the best way to push Detroit's conversation forward and the best way to share Daily Detroit. With that, I'm Jer Stays. Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around town.